the IGA, August 25th. Welcome everybody. We reconvene after a little hiatus from October. It's a little crazy.
So I called this meeting because I wanted.
Mr. Dupere,
Oh,
before you get started, I know that Kurt was at the meeting on October 27th of last year, but we never approved the minutes. So they're included in your packet right there. If you could approve them, so we can go ahead and have Diana post those.
Ready? Can do.
Do you need approval of this agenda as well?
Yeah.
So we need approval of this agenda and then approval of the minutes from October 25th.
Okay.
Sorry.
So now that the meeting's called to order, do I have an approval of today's agenda?
Is that just
would
me?
be you saying yes.
Yes.
I think so. That looks good to
I
me
saw
too.
It was wonderful.
So we are in favor, aye. And the minutes from October 27th. There's not much to dispute there, so yeah, I don't see any problem with those, Melissa.
Okay.
So those will be considered approved.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Dupere.
That's fine. So those can be posted. Mr. Dupere.
okay. Sorry, I forgot that.
That's okay.
I called this meeting because I think there has to be a kind of an in-depth view of what we're, I guess, dealing with from the standpoint of the quick transition with SBMA in their board policy or the governance policy. So if you'll remember back in January, I brought this issue up and I asked for dual membership. That's not what this is about today. What this is about today, just so that the board understands fully what is expected of us as we go through this governance change. So when we were having the discussion, and you can correct me the dates, so you know them better than I do, Melissa, but when we were going through this discussion in January, there was, because I'd had a discussion with Shelley Norden about we needed a policy or governance or a policy process to where we could get the policies that were looked at legally. So they had an individual on staff, I don't remember her last name, Jill Terillium,
Terillium,
Yeah.
I think.
and she was reviewing them and then sending them to us. And then at some point, probably in March, April, that stopped. And I don't think she's employed anymore.
She last gave me something in May.
In May, so she's not employed anymore. And so then, at that point, we started seeing just a complete conversion of what the policy governance looked like. So what we sent you was basically some of the transmissions. There's been a lot of transmissions from SBMA on what the new governance policy is going to look like. So Melissa has been.
Here's all the emails.
This is all of the emails that she's gotten recently. Gosh, it's hard to keep up with. It's moving so fast.
How is your hair not turning gray?
Yeah.
It is.
It moves fast in multiple directions.
So because it's moving so fast, it's probably important that the board knows how fast it's moving and that we're almost expected to start taking action when the whole process is not complete yet, if that makes sense. So the whole governance policy is kind of live, fluid,
Okay.
but yet we're expected to be starting and enacting it. And so I'm going to turn it over to Melissa at this point. This is all of the documentation in the handout that you have.
So that you understand
So
what
that you
the difference
understand
is.
what the situation is as far as the transition.
And there's a lot of information in here. I tried to get all the emails and condense them into this packet, but I also made a little summary sheet for myself to like read to you. And I mean, you can read all of this as you go if you'd like, ask questions or anything. But it's just easier for me to get my thoughts down. So the first page, it's page 4 actually.
Can I interrupt for just a
Yeah.
second?
Mhm.
Are you completely lost?
You're lost. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to go from the beginning
She's
and
gonna
explain it all.
unload.
I think she may be more lost than I am because I was in on all the old IGA stuff. And the last that I understood, it was just a disconnect between what VSBA was doing and
Yeah.
SBMA. And we were kind of caught in the middle of methodologies, not knowing how to react with our own policies,
Right.
right?
And now they have suggested a large number of changes in addition to what we were doing. Like we told them we wanted more guidance,
Right?
and now they've redone their whole policy process and want us to follow it. And so I'm gonna go through everything they've told me so far and what that looks like and what that means for us if we follow through with what they're saying.
And I think what's important here is that there is a policy process in the state of Virginia, which is VSBA, but there's that, they use the model of the National School Board Association.
Mm-hmm.
So the lettering system and all that comes from the national
Okay.
level. Each state, most of the states use that. So what we're doing is transitioning to a new model where even the latest discussion, I think as of yesterday, well, you don't have to use the new numbers, you can use the old numbers. And so it gets kind of confusing as to how do you process through. So she's going to take you through the process of showing, we presently have 253 policies. Their recommendation is that we only have 70.
Okay.
So I'm going to
They're
let
gonna
you,
get lost.
I'm going to let you
Okay,
start.
let's start at the
I'm going to
beginning.
let her
beginning.
start, just so you understand
So anyway, that was a little
the
background
context.
Yeah.
That's,
for where
that's
we've
just the
been and where
context.
Yeah, I think
going.
we're at we're not arguing so much one or the other, we're just
Yeah.
saying, where do you
This
want
is
us to
where-
go with
where
this
do you want us
policy?
take
To,
this?
to help Jill, because you're not as familiar, we used to have IGA, and I would get policies from VSBA or School Board Member Alliance or our legal counsel or ourselves, and I would make a draft version of that with all changes where they came from, if it was law, if it was staff, who wanted to change it. Then we brought it to IGA, and we discussed it as a group, finalized the draft, then the draft went to the next school board meeting for information to the whole board. And then the following meeting would be for action, so that it would become part of our policy manual.
So can I add on to that? Originally with VSBA.
Yeah.
You would get anything that had become law, you would get a red line version of how the law got implemented into policy. If it was a policy that already exists, red line on how it changed, or you would get a whole new policy because the law never existed before. So we were used to getting those law updates or those policy updates at least quarterly, right, Melissa?
It was 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So it was usually in February, May, and sometimes in summer, if they had more things that changed, because July 1st is when not policy, but laws go into effect. So they would give me a packet of policies with what, like Dr. Calvert said, with anything that had changed. We'd have to go by what the law said, regardless if it's in our policy or not. But sometimes, same with SBMA or VSBMA, anyway, they'll put their own language and they'll put the language of the law. So then that was what the IGA committee was for. So we could say, do we want it to say what they said, or do we want a different language as long as it abides by the law? So that's what we would do, and then it would go to the board. And so when we changed over to SBMA, they were new to doing policy services. So they got kind of lost with understanding what it was that people needed from them. So they told us that they were going to transition, start making things more towards what we had been doing before. And that's where we were. That's why we used our legal counsel last summer to go through any legal changes that had changed in policy while they were getting their process together. So now we're waiting for their process to come together. They start giving us policies to change. Now they're saying, don't use anything that we've told you to use before per a phone conversation that I had with them. Now we're going to this new transition. We're changing to what I'm getting ready to talk about.
Okay.
So they revamped everything,
Yes.
including their nomenclature.
Yes.
Yes, to not match
Anybody else?
anybody else.
Yeah.
And is some of this in response to our reaching out to them and saying we need better
Well,
guidance?
I think they had a policy person. Now, she was not an attorney. She was on, I think, a Northern Virginia school board and had dealt with policy a lot. And that was Jill, right? So she was working on just completely policy, but honestly, one person working on policy, I'm sure it was completely overwhelming. And they were trying to get up and running. But you're comparing against someone that we were used to using that had like 118 years of experience, multiple attorneys, multiple, you know what I mean? And everybody expected them to be,
and they want to change their naming convention for their own process. That wasn't any input, I don't think, that came from anyone else. It was just,
They're trying to
I
make
We're
it
trying to-
I
trying
think
to
they
make it
did a
their own.
swing to say, well, let's not look at all policies, let's look at only the policies we have to. And let's put everything else in handbooks, or let's put the law in the law, the policies we have to, and then, so they kind of shifted to a whole new format, which makes there to be less policies.
okay, so that's where we'll start on page 5. So,
some of that is probably them just trying to be unique,
yeah,
trying to not plagiarize VSBA, right?
but we
And,
wanna,
and a
we
lot
wanna
of it's
make
not
sure.
wrong, it's
No,
just,
We just wanna make sure that you're aware of everything and that you help us guide the decision making in what we're doing moving forward with it.
Got it.
So, page 5 pretty much is saying that what they wanna do is only if the state of Virginia code mandates a policy be adopted, like in the language, then it would stay in our manual. If not, every other policy would relocate to governance manual, an administrative regulation, a handbook, wherever we wanna put it. And so as of today, we currently have 253 policies. They want to get down to fewer than 70 in this new way that they're gonna do stuff. We have 36 at regulations today that would absorb some of those things, but then other parts would go into handbooks and things like that. So out of the 12 sections of our policy manual that we have right now, 6 of the 12 would relocate out of, or in a large part, entirely out of our policy manual. So 6 out of the 12. You can see there that it's part of section C, it's most, anyway, you could.
can I give an
you could put that.
example?
Yeah.
Is that a good place for my example? So if you notice the G, employees, all of G moves out of policy
Yeah,
and into handbooks,
a handbook or code of conduct.
which means, so they aren't dictated by law, I got that, but there are a lot of things in there that then would be moved to handbook. And the employee handbook, I mean, pretty much my supervisors, Randy and I, kind of look at the handbook and make adjustments, okay? So it doesn't go to the board to be approved. We keep it so the employees know the rules and regulations. A lot of it is just reminding people of policy. But, for example, then we would be deciding, rather than the board deciding, about sick leave donation, sick leave bank, payment of unused leave, RIF procedures and policies, who gets RIF first. This would then not be a board decision.
Okay,
It would be an us decision.
and
How
I
do
know.
you feel about that?
I feel honestly that that's insane because, and I know I'm being
Still
taped.
stuff with us.
Right,
Actually.
because I don't, for example, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't like sick leave donation. I think we're abusing it, we're misusing it. So if it was up to me, if you grant me this power, it's gone.
Well, and I think we decided in policy to phase it out.
Right, But I'm saying, should I, having the handbook, I don't think we should have that much. I think a board should decide that. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's lots of things in there that no, they don't have to be in policy. They can be in handbooks, but then that means the board is kind of taken out of the decision process for those items. I mean, think about
Yeah, I'm gonna talk,
payment of unused leave. It's $30 right now. That's a budget impact. If we lower it or higher, if we raise it.
Now, I understand that's where we were a month ago. And then as of about 2 weeks ago, that changed.
We'll let her get to
And
that
let her
point.
get to that, because I think they recognized, maybe we don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we wanna put some of it back in the hands of the school board. So let her explain that, cause that's where it was.
Right.
And then in the mid-August, that changed.
Well,
So
a
the-
week ago it changed.
Well,
so this is,
Mid-August.
this is the process of,
Anyway, that's a good example, that
Yeah.
employee
Yes.
stuff would go
Yeah.
to somewhere else and be out of the purview of the board.
Right.
like, their idea is
That's
to
version one.
do
Yes.
this and make the policy manual leaner, but not even we haven't went further yet, like with what Dr. Calvert is saying, but so far, SBMA has only went through sections B and C and giving me anything to work with, like help with the 12 different sections that we have. So,
And they do say frequently in all of their documents that we will have to get our legal team to
Yeah.
review and approve the
I-
policies.
that's in here too, but I'll.
They are not a legal team.
So the next page is just an example. So Leanne gave you an example, but this is an example of, they gave me in an email some policies that were going into effect July 1st, the laws anyway. So they said, this will show you that 33 policies, or action items, excuse me, they're not policies, that typically would be our policies. So we would update that and put them in our policy manual. 10 of them require or invite school board policy. The other 23 would go in other locations, the handbook, regulation, or some other document that we created. So that's just an example of 33 of them, only 10 would become policy, and all the rest of them, we would be doing the work for. We would figure out where they went. We would have to maintain them and all that. Like, I'm not sure how much guidance they're gonna give us on it, because they haven't really said that yet. But I just wanted to,
There'd almost have to
Give
be
you-
a superintendent's guidance book created.
so even though for them, a leaner manual doesn't reduce what the law requires. Like, we're still required to follow everything in the law, regardless of if it says it has to have a policy. So who's gonna do that? Who's gonna make sure that it gets put in stuff, and that we're gonna be held accountable, and that everybody's gonna know what's going on, and we're gonna be following the laws if somebody's not handing us this and saying, these are policies, we read them, we go over them in meetings, everybody sees them. After we do policies and they're for action, I forward them to principals, say, tell your staff, like, we're not gonna have that.
And sometimes the law is hard to interpret. Sometimes just because someone writes the law, we don't really know how that sometimes fits into our daily practice.
Right.
So having them written so we understand that
Cause even
makes
when,
everybody know what they have to do.
even when we've gotten language before, and I'm not a lawyer, but I do policy stuff, so I look at it and I say, to me, this means this. And then a policy services gives me something, and I'm like, I don't really interpret it what you just said. And you know, they're not necessarily legal counsel either, so how do you interpret that?
So I think the backup question to all this is, what's wrong with having 253 policies?
They're saying that if the law doesn't specifically say you need a policy for this law, then it shouldn't be in a policy. It should still be,
And they're not gonna give us the updates for 253.
Okay,
now, I'm not sure.
that's where the rub is.
See,
They
that-
don't wanna do the work
that's
for
where I-
253.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak on their behalf. I mean, to me, it looks like they're only going to update 70 policies and give us the information for it. Do they have a plan to give us the other stuff that comes from the
The
law and tell us
manuals.
where to put them? I have no idea.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
So
you.
I'm not trying to bash. That's not what my point is. I just
So,
want to understand.
you have not got any, you haven't gotten any new legislation to where they've mapped it as to where it goes yet.
Now,
That's coming.
the other day, I got an email that only had a couple of things in it that said, these in this section, which were bylaws per their website, they were saying certain pieces would go in there. Now, I've been focused on trying to get ready for this meeting, so I haven't went and tried to learn in great detail what they were talking about. So, I mean, yeah, a little guidance they've given. I don't know that they're gonna give us like word for word here, put this in your student code of conduct here. put
But the
this in your-
bylaws are something that have to be in policy for the board to approve. The board has to
The
approve
board
their
has their own
bylaws, right?
bylaws, yeah.
Yeah,
So that becomes the overarching question is this law change and any policies that law change affects, should it be under the purview of the board, or is it something that can be in a regulation and under the purview of the administrative staff? That's the bifurcation that I see. And I think
And-
that should be an internal decision, not SBMA's decision.
Right.
Now, if there's a law change and they say, this is gonna affect your policies, do we have to have them tell us which policies that's gonna affect? Because a lot of times, you guys tell us.
we're paying for
policies-
policy services from them.
For
So
them.
that's what we're relying on from them to give us. If not,
We're relying on them to take what language our policy says and say, the law just changed and this needs to be implemented into that policy. Here's some language you can use if you want, or you can change it as long as it fits the law. That's what we're used to. and what
so,
we've-
and my other, I guess, concern is that last year, because it wasn't up and running, we had Sands Anderson review our policies. So Sands Anderson took what they do in the summer, if there's 6 organizations that are paying for them to review policies, then whatever time it takes gets divided by 6. Well, most of Virginia is using the numbering system of VSBA. So if everything is completely different, I don't know that we can be batched into that. Do you see what I'm saying? They're gonna
Yes.
have to review us separately because we're not gonna have the numbering.
Cause it's a different language. When you change the nomenclature, there's no congruency
Because you
in
have no idea
policies.
what that policy means.
That's right.
And I don't, yeah,
And they do say that you don't have to change to what they're saying, but then how do you know what it went in?
then you
Right,
wouldn't,
cause they're doing it for the 70, not the 253.
yeah, they may tell you where the 250 are, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
They may tell you what needs to go in the handbook, but we're nowhere near that destination yet. So,
And a lot of times, when there's a policy, like for instance, the calendar. We changed the calendar at the last second, just because I was looking at the policy that is very easily understood that, to where we all had to be on the same schedule. And down at the bottom were like 10 references to laws even 20 years ago. What was the one? It was like 1970 or 1993 or something like that. And we were included in that one. And so when you looked up that one, oh, there's Bedford in it. And so none of it,
They're exempt.
there were like 15 or 20 schools that were exempt, and we didn't know that, because you had to go back like, I think it was like 12 years or
all the
something like that.
footnotes.
And you had to go look at every single footnote, and I only caught it just because I didn't want to come to the board meeting and not be clueless as to what this all meant. And I was like, holy cow, that afternoon, it was like, I don't think we're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
So this is basically what you're up against. If they're not gonna help us review the old things and tell us what they are, where they go, then how do we know the updates? It won't just, most of it's not new stuff. Most of it's not new necessary new legislation. It's taking old legislation and putting another bill attached to it. So, I mean, I don't know how it would be man hours like crazy trying to figure out where the 253 go.
Plus, it's gonna make it
Okay.
hard, it's gonna make it hard for, us, and it's gonna make it hard for the public. So say that you have a question about something that we do here. You can go, I mean, currently on Board Docs, it will be Diligent Community. You can go click the little magnifying glass, type a couple words in, and it'll show you everywhere in any policy it says that. Well, how are you gonna find anything now? Because you can only search through 70 policies with the magnifying glass, and everything else is randomly put places. Like, how does anybody know where to find anything? How do we know if we are updating it? Like, it
I
makes
was
it,
gonna say too, in my position, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I'm not on the phone with a principal digging through our current board docs policy manual. And there's exceptions, but for the most part, I feel like it's a well-oiled machine where we can find it, talk through it, make a decision and move on. I think in leadership, sometimes, when we make decisions, especially big decisions to move or change and things, we have to ask, is this change going to make the lives of students, staff, principals better? And I'm just baffled by, I don't know how a different system that we've been used to, and in my opinion, a well-oiled machine would make it
And it
better
isn't-
for parents and students.
it isn't that change is the problem. Because, you have to change and evolve and do things. But if it makes no sense and it's not helping, then, if we see something and we're like, oh, this would be more efficient, or this would help our students, or this would help our staff, then it would make sense to go with something, or staff time, or,
There's a lot of things in
You know how
handbooks that
much-
we just don't think rises to the level
I
of
mean,
policy.
I
Who
do-
comes on a snow day?
I
You know what I
do the
mean?
policy.
Things like that.
I do the policy now, and it does take time, but who in the world, look at the staff time it's gonna take to figure out, first of all, who's gonna do each one of these things, where to put it, how to change all these policies out and put them somewhere else. Like, how much time and money is that gonna take for the staff that currently work here? And I don't care, I do whatever job, anybody that knows I've been here, this is my 22nd year, and I've been in many jobs, because if something's broken, they give it to me to fix it, and I'll just do it. So I don't care about work or change or whatever, so I'm not speaking on that. Like, I'll do whatever, whenever I need to do it. But it needs to make sense, and I think this is gonna be harder for everyone except, and I hate to say that because we're on a live stream, but everyone except SBMA. Because it's helping them and it's hurting us, in my opinion. That's
Can
my
I
opinion.
just ask, cause I don't wanna skip ahead, but what is the solution? Or is that gonna, cause I've
Well,
looked through here and I don't,
That's kind of like why we want to tell you all about this, so that we can all together figure it out with the board,
Okay.
what the solution is.
We could figure it out, but that's not appropriate. We need your input to figure it out.
right, I didn't know if there was an idea of what a solution might be.
If we had one, then we would tell you,
Okay.
it'd be easier on you.
Well, I think we have to go back historically
You
and
do.
say, okay, why did we switch from VSBA to SBMA?
Yeah.
Right, and that was a philosophical, political,
Yes.
moral
Mhm.
decision, not necessarily a practical decision.
And it isn't like, people believe what they believe, but I'm not trying to be a proponent for VSBA any more than SBMA. If they gave us what we needed, it doesn't matter to me, but we need somebody that's helping us. We're paying for help, and that's not what we're getting right here. And I'm trying to keep us on task, but I'm also gonna move ahead a little bit to say, not only when we were with VSBA, and I'm not saying go back with VSBA, I'm just saying, they had, while I was working with them, their own lawyer on staff. So everything that we received had already been vetted, and it's on them, because they're the lawyer. And then they got another one before we left them. Well, with these people, I'm sure that they're very professional, smart, intelligent people. But nobody on their staff has a legal background. So therefore, in multiple emails that I've gotten recently, they have said, this is for educational purposes. Everything that we say, you need to have your legal counsel look at everything that we give you for approval before it's adopted by your board. So what are we paying you for? We could pay our own lawyer to write the policy and give it to
We
us.
could develop our own opinions, but they're not
And
legal.
I think there's, and In their defense, their staff is very, very small. What, 2 people?
Well, I've got it in here.
Yeah, it's,
We bounce around because we have,
Alright, so you're
so
on,
go ahead
you're
and
on about
finish.
page 6, right?
yeah, I'm on page 7.
Alright, 7?
So, I just put a little thing here that says like currently what we do and what SBMA is proposing that we do and what that means for us. So, we have 253 policies now and 36 regulations. They wanna do fewer than 70, limited to what the code says. Also, like, the board would no longer approve these things. We would put them into manuals and, or handbooks or whatever.
So
It
that's
wouldn't need to be voted on by you.
that's a definition difference between policies and regulations, right? Policies are things that are board approved and sanctioned.
Yeah.
Regulations are things that the board has placed in the hands of the administrative staff to make their own decisions about things for
Kind of the
practical
process,
flow of.
usually it's
kinda
the
like-
process of how you implement the policy.
Right, the board says this is the policy, we approve the policy. Like,
You gotta come up with
And
how to
then-
do it.
his staff is supposed to come up with what are the steps to implement the policy that the board approved?
And that's
Like, the
why,
regulation should be the steps.
and we asked in a previous board, did they want, when I started doing policies, do you want us to bring regulations to you? Because the board can say that. If there are regulations they want to adopt and that we don't just change them and give them to you in a Wednesday memo, then you can do that. But we asked and they're like, no, well, that's, your job is to implement how to fulfill the policies that we have already adopted. So we don't do that, that's why you get them in a memo on Wednesdays.
And that's the basic, I think, definition of policy and regulation. Like, when
Yeah.
you look it up, that's what it says. It even says boards approve policy,
Yeah.
staff make regulations.
And a bunch of our policies state the superintendent must make procedures or regulation to, I don't know.
Enact
to
this
imp-
policy.
Yeah, to
Right,
implement.
And any,
Even-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Even so, regulations, there's kind of a courtesy,
Yes.
Yeah.
implementation of regulations
Gotta
that, hey, if
explain.
we're gonna do something, we're just gonna let the board know. You know, legally you
Right.
don't have to, but out of courtesy and to keep everybody on the same page, we're usually informed of any change in regulation that you guys make. So,
But my handbook is probably, I don't know, look it up, 65 pages or something like that.
Yeah,
And every regulation is tied directly to a policy. They're named the same, like
well, most.
GB's.
We have a
well,
couple of regulations that are standalone that we just
but
created.
for the most part, the policies kind of put the parameters on the regulations and how they're
Mhm.
implemented.
It just gives the how.
So the big change from VSBA to SBMA was a rock that went into the pond, and we're seeing all the ripple effects right now. So carry on, give us some more ripples.
So anyway, that was the current model and what they wanna do. So pretty much it's just, now everything's not in one location, the board doesn't approve everything. We are responsible for putting stuff wherever we wanna put it. Okay, so page 8 is kind of it's similar to what Mr. Dupere had emailed you.
Mhm.
But it was an updated version of what they gave me. So it just kinda shows the 5 tiers that they want to do, which is law, governance manual, school board policy, administrative regulations, and handbooks. Tiers 1 through 3 at the top would require school board adoption and stay fully within school board authority. Tiers 4 and 5 are staff administered with written confirmation back to the school board. Now, they said written confirmation. We would assume either you would give us direction that we are responsible for doing the handbooks and all that stuff, or you just want a report at a board meeting, or, that would be,
I
How
think
we
that
come
was
up with
because
that.
they first come out with the first version. I think Reflex, because people didn't really like what it was saying.
yeah, so they were
The
changing.
reflex change was, well, the board can give written consent for handbooks, the board can give consent for regulations. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it was kind of the knee jerk.
Yeah, people responded,
It was
Back
kind of
to-
halfway pullback to, it's not really a policy, but it's a regulation that needs to be overseen by the board.
Right, so now, in a sense, there was changing of definitions.
and because because people started,
of the word regulation.
Exactly.
because people started asking questions, they sent another email, which is when I added this little part at the bottom that says SBMA 7-question quick test, because people were like, what? So if whatever question gets answered here tells you where to put it. So that's pretty much where they were trying to give more direction. Now, page 9, section 5. Potential benefits and implementation considerations. Per them, it was operational flexibility, faster admin changes, but the school board loses direct voting on items moved to regulations. Or anywhere else, I don't know why I said regulations, but anything that's moved out of the policy manual into other locations, you would no longer have voting on that. Legal and compliance. Let's see. That was about, we would still need our legal counsel to review everything because they said it's for educational purposes.
So that's
I
a
think-
little bit baffling to me.
I think that right-hand column is what you should take note to, under legal and compliance.
So we're gonna have a whole different cost
Yeah.
if our legal team has to review everything that, we're paying SBMA for something, but now we're also paying our legal team for the same thing.
And that's why we had the SBA and stuff, because it was a lot cheaper than if you got an hourly rate for a legal, like a lawyer. I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
You send them an email, it's like $200 because they read it. I mean, it's crazy. And it says the financial oversight piece, the school board keeps ultimate legal responsibility. You're in charge of the money that we get and how we spend it, but you're not making the decisions or voting on this stuff. So that's not good either for you.
It's what's baffling is that they can come up with a structured, a structure for our governance that is so heavily weighted on the Virginia law, but yet they don't have a legal team
Right.
verifying any of it, right? If we have nobody that has a legal background writing such
To
a
interpret.
legally heavy document and structure,
Because they said that's
it's just kind
why,
of an oxymoron.
that's why we only have the sections B and C of the policy so far from them. Because they said that what they have worked on is in legal review, so they must be working with somebody, but even though they're working with somebody, we're still supposed to get our people to look at it too. That's my understanding. I'm trying to decipher all this information.
Right, it's just one big disclaimer
Yeah.
that, yeah, this is structured so that you're legally sound, but it's not really legally
Right.
sound in itself.
I think it's important to look at that bottom one, system sustainability. This is one of my biggest concerns.
Well, it's like if something were to happen, and I have this in here later, if something were to happen with SBMA and they were no longer doing this, what kind of situation are we in? We've gotten rid of all these policies, everybody else is using them, we have to re-implement them,
We'd almost have to retire
Start
them
from-
and fold them somewhere.
we'd have to start over.
Yes. And, you know, we're not the only ones that are kind of going through this conundrum.
No.
So how many other divisions are with SBMA? And how many of them are gonna jump ship and watch SBMA sink?
I don't think that many full divisions. I
I'm not
think on lots and lots of divisions, there's one or two members of the board on SBMA. Full divisions where 7 members belong, what do you think?
I'd be hard pressed to think there was more than 5 to 6, 7.
I'm honestly shocked.
There may be more, I just don't, when I go to meetings in conferences, I don't find many superintendents who even understand fully what SBMA is.
Okay.
I'm kind of shocked that they would want to take away an
Cause that's their
additional-
premise.
Right. Yes, from the board.
Right, because that's one of the premises I thought they were built on was the fact of giving you all more power,
More
more
say,
say.
more
Well, that
of
was-
just like making sure that decisions weren't made without at least the knowledge of the board. I
Well,
mean,
and-
obviously you
And
all
you
give
would
more
dictate
courtesy
that
with it.
if we came up with a process, you would dictate if you got some kind of, I guess, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, it seems
I
like
think
they keep
Dr.
changing what
Keller's
they're saying in the
comment,
emails.
There might be a lot of boards that have SBMA members, but they probably don't have four for a consensus or five.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many
That's
school
the
divisions
question.
have only SBMA, cause I think a lot of them have two.
And we just really have to think about if we're prepared to maintain all these handbooks and all this stuff, because, and who's doing that?
Well taken points, Melissa.
Next page, page 10. So I tried to make something about cost, capacity, and local obligations. So, of course, the fee for any of this stuff is, it's gonna cost, no matter what we do. But we have nothing in writing right now, because they said, as long as they're still in their planning phase, and they don't really have anything finished, they're not going to bill anybody at the moment. So, I mean, that part's at least good. So we have to wait for that. We talked about their policy codes. We don't have anything to fall back on if we change to their numbering convention, because everybody else is using the one we currently do. I mean, there are other school divisions that use other things. I don't know if they're in Virginia, but I had to research it at one point because we wanted to change something a long time ago, but we never did because of this same situation.
And
Again,
when you call the attorneys, like, they will quote your policy to you. Like, when I call Sands Anderson, they'll be like, Leanne, policy JK, second section, whatever, says this.
because everybody.
This is how you follow this, or whatever. Like, they've almost got them.
Memorized.
And not, and again, not that we can't learn new ones.
Right, we can.
Yeah,
It's
Just
just
an
gonna take
additional
longer.
cost with somebody that exclusively
Be lost a while.
they have to do.
Well, and they'll have to look it up,
Right.
legal expense, look and see what it says. They're not gonna, it's not gonna be policy this anymore.
I mean, we could, unless they change the titles, we could somehow search the title and figure out that it was the same policy. I mean, if we wanted to do that, I don't.
We could put both
They
codes
wanna-
on it.
Yeah, they want to do their own thing, which I understand, like you said, they want to be their own and not copycat everybody else. But
Well, they
if
can't,
I'm given,
because that whole system belongs to the National Association.
Yeah.
States use the national list of,
Yeah.
letters, basically
and if
categories.
given the option, I don't
They're
want
not
to change it.
allowed,
Right, they
from
can't
what I
put-
read, that's correct. They can't use that system because they're not part of that association.
Yeah,
So it would be somebody also coming in and being like, even though we think this is the same policy, I need to make sure and read through it and lead. So it takes more time every time.
Yeah, more legal time.
Got it.
I also just added some things like, just because of putting them in different places, every other law that's not just stuff in policy still applies. So I do FOIA, I do records management, I do all that stuff. Like, you still have to abide by the rules of each one of those individual things too, and make sure that you're up to date. And if nobody's giving us that, maybe they will.
But you have to know
Who's
they
that follow?
exist. I think,
Right.
like, it helps us to know laws are in when laws are in policies, I think it makes, and they don't have to be, absolutely, they don't have to be, they're right. But it makes you know they exist.
Yeah,
I don't know that I know all of them.
no, and even if I or anybody else had part of their job duties to sit and watch the laws, interpreting them and knowing what they mean or where they go, I don't know. I mean, I might know a little piece, oh yeah, this policy had something to do with that, maybe.
Sounds like a good job for AI.
And then, let's see,
But I think we were having that discussion today, and Leanne brought up a very good point. You can't put legal documents in AI, is that it?
No, you can't put, like, you can put the whole, we could put the whole thing in. I mean,
The
and the
policy?
laws and everything like that, but you're still gonna have to are we comfortable with the
You
fact
still
that we
have to
could be
get- gotta be
sued on the
legally
fact
backed.
that AI did it? Like,
Must be
I think we
legally
still
backed.
have to have an attorney to review.
And I can tell you, I use different versions of AI for different things to help with getting something done faster. But then I never use what it says. Like, I go through and be like, that doesn't really what that said, yeah. And I mean, I might make something, say, okay, I made this with AI by dumping in all the stuff they gave me. But then I went back through and said, that's not what that said, you know? And I probably did that 30 times before I got an end product that I was happy with, that I thought matched what they said. So you can't, I wouldn't trust AI. I mean, I trust it to make me
Like I
some
said, that's
graphics or
cheap,
something.
but, you know, basically, it's a monumentous job that computing would certainly shorten
Oh, yeah.
the time burden,
I mean, it
but
helps
it
a
doesn't
lot.
supersede oversight.
In the legal
Right.
aspect.
Yeah, cause a trained attorney can see the AI immediately.
I mean, even AI interprets something different, depending on how it's programmed,
That's right.
same as people. Let's see. I'll just go to the next page. So I also made like a little timeline of since we started using SBMA and kind of the steps we've been going through. So we started using them, the board approved that in 2024. And then we were like, this isn't really what we wanted this to do. So Chris Daniels got involved and talked to them. They said they were gonna work on it, like I said earlier. That's when we got consensus from the board in April of 25 that we could use our current legal counsel to look at our policies while they were figuring it out, like I said before. And that's when we had Jill at SBMA. And then in May, Shelley Norden, and I've not really dealt with whoever this lady is, Deborah Wallstrom. I haven't had any dealings with her, only Shelley, but I got an email saying they were now gonna handle policy services and anything moving forward. And then near the end of May 20th, is when they said, we're coming up with this new system, we're gonna give you details coming forward. And that's when I got all of this stuff over here. And as of June 25th, they said they had the bulk of the transition complete. Like I said, that they're in final legal review for someone to look at their stuff. So everything's drafts and we really can't use anything but B and C. So the decisions based on this timeline that we need to come up with are the scope of local legal review and what that would cost us, the ownership of each policy and who would do that, which we already talked about that. Staff capacity to maintain decentralizing these from policies to all these other things, what that would look like, what it would cost, what that would mean for staff. That's all. Next page shows you.
My concern on that
Okay.
whole delay that she was talking about is that we're already so far behind on reviewing
Yeah, I have that
policies.
in here somewhere.
This is, we should be dealing with policies right now.
I mean, regardless, that's the bad part. Like, I don't know what's changed except for when they send me an email. And we have, which I'll talk about. I
Yeah,
just
I
won't
just
go
wanted to-
forward because I'm just moving
No,
ahead.
I just wanted to make
confusing myself.
note of, it's delaying us on so many areas.
Yeah. So this page, I don't really have to talk about it a lot, but it's just showing you who all the people on their leadership are. And also showing you that Chris Daniels is on our board and also their board. I was just giving you some information on who works there and what their backgrounds are.
So I'm guessing the actual people who get paid are Shelley, Deborah, and maybe Josh. I'm not sure about him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I think it's
The other people are like volunteers, I think.
the other people are direct. I mean, they're on the board.
Yeah.
It says director, but they're on the board of directors. They're not paid people, right?
I don't know.
No, they're not paid.
Right, the only people, like, this is vice chair of the board, secretary of the board, treasurer, right? Is that how, I think? I'm looking
I'm not
at
It's,
sure.
at this point, not,
They're not
it's not
employees.
relative, or relevant,
No.
I should say, to
Pretty much this was
discussion,
just,
but
it was just showing you
she's
kind of
just
like,
showing you the hierarchy.
they
Yeah,
are
I'm just
and-
saying the staff is small.
and their background, pretty much the reason I put this in here, so only what I could find on them. I mean, I don't know. I don't see that they had any kind of legal background.
Is Josh Hessler, an attorney?
Am I confusing him with somebody else?
He might be, I've never seen that name before.
This was on their, they sent me an email that had a little newsletter on it. And then it said who their board was, like who their employees were. So that's what I took it off
And
of.
I know Dora works for them in some capacity as well. But
No, I
she's
didn't
not
know
on the board? No, not anymore? Okay.
That was just the informational.
She did.
Did but doesn't.
And then section 9. This is some pages that I added because I guess people started asking questions about what they had sent out about regulations and procedures and if that was different or the same. And so what they were saying to do is, I guess they just changed what they had said. So policies were to be done by the school board and approved by them. Then they turned around and said the procedures were to be done by the superintendent and staff. The regulations were now going to be approved by the school board. Because they said that in state law, which it's actually only 2 laws, and it's referencing, student conduct in both of them. And that was the only law that I could find, but again, I'm not a lawyer. That actually said that you had to have a regulation approved by the board if it applied to those 2 laws. Everything else was if the board wanted to or they didn't want to. But SBMA is suggesting, as of August 11th, that the board would, I don't know if maybe people were getting these emails and they were like, oh, you're taking this from the board, so now let's add something back on them so that they have authority over something else. I don't really know.
But you would still, you would still only vote on regulations that were attached to the 70 policies, right?
That's not what they said in that email. They said,
But how would you have a regulation without a
we
policy?
do have some.
See, it sounds like they've just
Not
changed the
many.
definition of
Yeah.
regulations so that they have less policies.
Well,
But
the
they've
two
really
that she's, the
created.
two that she's, I did a little research on this one. The 2 that she's referring to is one on removal of students from class and one about hazing students. Those are the 2 that have,
Yeah, it was about student
have
conduct.
legislation
and
for the
student
school
discipline
board
and
to enact
suspension.
regulations. And so when you look at her statement, Virginia law requires the school board to adopt student conduct regulations. That is true based on those 2 laws. But you can't generalize that and say that applies to all policies. And when you look up the law that she's referring to, where she uses the word requires, the law starts out, it's 22.1-78, starts out, the school board may adopt bylaws or regulations. So there's a difference between requires and may. And which ones do they apply to? Do they just apply to the 2 that are dealing with hazing and removing kids from school? I understand that. But I don't think you can blanket and say that that's all. It's for some and not others. So that's the confusing part, is who determines that at one point. So there's where I believe there's some conflict there.
Yeah, I was just trying to add what they gave me after the fact. Page G. Policies don't change, regulations, yeah, we've already talked about this. I just put that currently, the superintendent or staff superintendent's designees do the regulations, and we provide the language to you in a Wednesday board memo and an email. And if you had any problems with that or anything, that you could state what that was. And then the day the day that they go into a Wednesday memo, as soon as I get that email, I change them in our our board docs.
Mhm.
This was just more explanation of what they were saying, the difference was between policies, regulations, and procedures, and if it would change how we currently do stuff or not.
Well, you did a excellent job of putting this together.
And the last page I just put in there was kind of like just letting you know that what we have paid for already, not even just with SBMA, because we, years ago, when I started doing policies, it was very messed up, the manual was, and I was bringing 20, 30 policies a board meeting. The board's like, oh my goodness, no, this is too much. So Marcus changed it to 8 per board, so the board could actually focus on them.
Right.
So when you're only doing 8, if you have a lot that are being given to you, you don't get through very many in a year. So we're always behind, but we have to follow the law regardless, so it doesn't really matter if it's in your policy manual or not. But I wanted to put here to let you know, so in 2004 and 5, we paid SBMA for policy services. They gave us some policies, which I did some of them. I mean, I'm telling you, we're behind on a lot of things because something comes up and we're like, oh, this is really important, we need to do it right now. This one didn't change that much, so we'll hold off on that one. Plus, we have super old policies that aren't changing, but you have to look at them every 5 years. And we haven't done that in a lot of them either because I try to sprinkle in a few.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say, like, we have policies. I was still working on the last of the legal changes from VSBA policies. Like, I have one left from them. Then I was doing SBMA policies. Then Sans Anderson gave us a big pile in the summer. So we've paid for all of those for 3 different things, SBMA, VSBA, and Sans Anderson. We have paid for that. I have them sitting on my computer. I go through them, add a couple of really old ones, and we get through 8 at a time. I have all that sitting on my computer that we paid for, and now SBMA is saying, don't do anything with any of those policies that you have from us, which includes those, because it's still, if we get rid of them, what's the point of updating them? So we've already lost money.
Can we take a 5-minute break? And you chew on that, and I will be right back. can reconvene. Thank you. Apologize.
Oh, no, you're good.
Are you done with your,
Yeah, I went through the packet as
Okay.
much as you wanna hear, so.
So my question is, for us to stay on track with policies, how much would it be for us to get the support elsewhere? Am I allowed to ask that?
Well, the only elsewhere that we know of right now is VSBA
Or
or
Paying
our
our
legal
water,
team
Our own
in the
legal team.
summer. I believe, if I remember right, and I can look up the bill, I think it cost us about $3,000 last summer with Sands Anderson. But that's because there were several other people reviewing our policies at one time in the summer.
yeah,
Like-
they do that in the summer to make your costs lower.
So-
So we'd have to
If I
wait
recall
until,
correctly, the savings that we got switching from VSBA to SBMA was a wash because of all the legal.
Well,
You did
so the membership dues, and this is without
Close.
Diligent. So Diligent changes, their costs are gonna change significantly, and I don't have the new costs and the new discounts. But our membership fee was about 10,000 with VSBA, and then policy services was 3750. But then they gave you a $2,000 discount for using board docs, so it was 10, not 12. So which made the cost about $23.77.50. With SBMA, you pay $350 per board member, so that's $24.50, $2,900 for policy services, and you don't get a discount for board docs. So $17.5. So what did I say first? $23.5 versus $17.5. SBMA is definitely less expensive.
but you're supposed to run it through your legal counsel.
And
Yes.
I think I kind of asked this in the meeting that we were talking about dual
Memberships.
membership, but because I was wondering if there was if we could just do, if the board had to, or if we could just go else. like,
VSBA,
How does it work
But
when you have
Can you just ask?
four of the
yours-
board members as VSBA
Yeah.
members and
VSBA won't allow you to be, you're either in
Or
or
you're
you're out with
So you
VSBA.
can't just do
You
part,
can't do individuals. SBMA, you can do individuals. So we're either, Bedford County's either part of VSBA or we're not.
oh, so
But
they're
SBMA,
all in or nothing.
you could be part of SBMA and Jill could not.
Yeah, VSBA, I think their pricing model depends on how many students you have.
Yeah.
And so they just look at your division, how many students, and they bill in different tiers.
Okay.
So it's not per board member, it's based upon student population.
So they won't let you be in VSBA and SBMA, like a certain.
No, I'm not saying that. I think a lot of
I'm saying if
divisions
they wanted-
do, but
if
I
they
said
wanted
they
to
won't
limit-
let Dr. Hubuck be in VSBA and somebody else on the board
Right.
not be in VSBA.
I mean, you'd be in it, but you wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
have to do anything
So
with
the
it.
That
board
makes
is an
sense
entire-
with the services too. I mean,
it's an
because
entire organization.
SBMA is services for school board members.
But if we as a board participated in VSBA, we could still have individual members that were SBMA.
I would
It's
assume.
just double dipping.
That exists
Yes.
already around us.
and that was
Right,
something that
other
was an
counties.
option back in January, February.
And I think that would cost $350 per board member. That's what it did cost, about $350 per board member. If you didn't have poly services and you wouldn't have your diligent through them either. You know what I mean? You wouldn't get it. So it couldn't be more than $2,500 if all 7 of you joined.
So if there's no other division that is all SBMA,
Well, there are some,
I think there might be some, yes.
yeah. I think
it's, you could probably count them on one hand, is what it sounded like.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I know their website says they have, 40 divisions that they have influence in. I don't know if that's one person or it's 5 people or.
Okay. It would seem to me that if there's no other division that's participating, that they're almost writing this policy for us.
Yeah, I don't know if they
believe
have,
there's
who they
one
have.
other, I think it might be Rockingham, I believe.
Yeah, other superintendent, you've met a couple,
I've met
couple
like,
superintendents that are, right?
I think it's, I can remember at
It
least
says
two.
no entire school board in Virginia has all members.
I think
We
ours.
know that's not right because we are.
Well, but is Jordan also a member?
Oh, Jordan's probably
Jordan's
not a member. I don't know.
I didn't think.
Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of what.
I
Yeah,
can't,
I
I don't
don't
know
know
that
the
answer.
answer.
No
I
idea.
didn't think he, I thought he was, so, I could be wrong, I'm sorry if I'm wrong.
I don't know either.
So,
So, yeah, I don't think we are 100%, but.
and there's the one.
I'm not
last
seeing
thing
any, I'm not hearing any positive.
Well, here's where I think it would be more positive if these statements didn't show up at least twice. And it's going through, like, we got a memo yesterday, 24th, outlining the new model and some of the, with the new coding, some of the things that we needed to start looking at. So as she's told you, you can work on A, B, and C, but you can't get below
Well, you
that.
work on B and C. A is not going to be in policy anymore.
So, but these are comments that have shown up at least twice. Boards need not wait until SBMA model is complete to start working on this. So we're working on something that's not complete. That I have some concern over.
And also the statement of have your legal team look
Right.
at this as well, which would be just a guesstimate.
I
Would
don't,
all that savings be like okay.
yeah, I know, well, because in the summer, it's a quick review. You're not changing all your policies. You're basically saying, we know that your premise is these policies that we've looked at 100 times before, or that your platform is these policies. So laws have changed, so we need to look at the policies that would affect those laws. It's not like you're paying them in the summer to read them all. They know which ones are affected by the laws. So they're pulling those, giving you red line versions for those and giving it back to you. So I guess it wouldn't change for the 70.
I'll just
I
say,
think it's an unknown.
I
Here's
do
another-
try to find the positive in stuff. So if you're asking for something good, just because we've always done something a certain way does not mean that it doesn't need to be looked at and reviewed and like, say we've got 253 policies. When I started doing it, we had more than that. We did look through and we said 30-some policies have exactly what it says in state law. Why do we have a policy that says this already? It's always good to reevaluate what you're doing to make sure that it's efficient and the thing you should do. But I don't agree with getting rid of all of our policies going to 70.
Well,
I mean, I'm just saying,
Neither.
looking at a system and saying, does this work? Should something be changed in bylaws? Should something be changed in this and this and this? Yeah, we should look at things,
I
but
mean,
not necessarily change
I'll
them.
add to that. I mean, I haven't said much, but the transparency and what board members' questions would be if we went to 70. I have a concern there. I mean, one of the examples, employee was calling up about retiring. Do I get paid out my sick leave or not? Well, we got board policy land, and I looked at that and said, okay, if you retire from VRS, well, what if you're not part of VRS? You're one of our part-time employees, but you accumulated sick leave. Well, policy said, we pulled it up, it was right there. That's not state law, it's our own policies that
Right.
we're
But
creating
it's
on that.
written
But the
and we
board has
know-
done this and said, if you retire from, if your retirement age, 62, you get your sick leave paid out if you leave. Pretty easy, board's made a vote on that. If that were not in policy, it would be buried in a handbook somewhere, the board have no idea, and you would get phone calls all the time going, why am I not getting paid? Well, where is that?
Well, and
Well,
what's
the board has weighed in on these things. So,
RIF
and it does affect
procedures.
people's pay and the budget.
Yeah, RIF procedures. I mean, you want someone else to look at that, vote on that, make sure everybody's on the same page with that of who gets RIF first, if we would have something, you know.
Well, and say we've been here for years, so we kind of know some stuff in your head from jobs over the years. Say you had turnover, somebody retired or whatever, and they're in an important job. Say one day when Dr. Calvert retires and somebody takes that job, if they don't know any of that knowledge in their head, they don't know where to go find something, they don't even know it exists. So,
So I guess my two concerns, I mean, there's concerns. Well, it's funny because when I read the initial email and emails as well, I'm thinking less policy, great. Like I came into it very positive and it's turned into the opposite. So I didn't even know by the email that there was like more conflict than anything else. It was kind of like, where do we go forward?
I
So
sent
thank
that
you.
on August tenth.
Right.
I've got 3 emails here that have changed since I wrote that.
Right, so I applaud you for getting us up to speed.
and our
so
intention
quickly.
isn't to cause conflict, it's just
It
like,
doesn't feel that way. It does not feel that way. And my concern is that how many months are we continuing to be behind? If
we're
not,
more than months, we're
right.
years behind, but.
We're sure to be nice.
But like
It's not as
just
bad as
with
the national deficit, but
just
Yeah.
just with this.
And this is one thing that kind of troubles me too. This is from the August 13th. And it's telling you how to get started. For now, I recommend that you review the updated Where Does It Belong handout, customize the SBMA model bylaws and governance manual in section 1, review the completed model policies in section 2.A, 2.B, and number 4, use section 7 to begin working through the existing
I don't
VSBA
even know what
policies.
2.B means.
It's
'Cause
on,
that's
it's
their
stuff on
model.
their
That's their
website,
model.
yeah.
That manpower right there is literally, she could sit over there and work 40 hours a week and not get this done in a year.
Yeah, but I don't just do policies.
I know that's what I'm saying. If you just put her over there, she couldn't get this done in a year. Because it's reviewing every single one of them and bringing every one of them back to you for review. So it's just, it's
I mean, we
mind-boggling.
could go off of old stuff that we have. We could send them all to Sands Anderson again next summer. We
at what
could work
expense
off
though? I mean,
of,
we're talking about
Europe.
reinventing the wheel
Mhm.
and taking up tons of man hours at who knows what expense. Randy's over there breaking a sweat.
I just don't think we should go this extreme.
What can we do and what kind of commitment can we do just to get on track,
Well,
continue?
Well, with
the
what-
way this works is you as a committee go through the process of hearing this.
Okay.
The two of you could either, I guess it's in the information, I need Diana for this. But you
In
could,
their committee reports.
in their committee reports, you could make a recommendation that this is convoluted, it's
We don't
costing
wanna
more
get rid of
money.
these, we don't wanna follow
we-
that
you know,
procedure.
Right, I'll basically summarize and hit
Right.
bullet points of Melissa's fantastic report.
And like I said, and I apologize, I didn't wanna keep sending stuff to you, but this is August 10th and I sent it out. And then I used it several times to get people to sign up for the work session. And there's a group of emails that have changed, something's changed.
Well,
So
with what,
if it, no, I'm sorry, if it goes to work session, which is right before, do we have a quorum?
Well, that's a decision, yes, you do have
And-
4. Well, you hadn't responded yet, so I assume you're gonna
We
be
could put it
making
on
the
a
report.
topic
I
for a
thought I
work
had
session.
responded to you, but yes, I'm.
Yeah, I assumed you were gonna be there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be there, but, and then it would go to a vote.
Or talking to Diana this morning, you don't necessarily have to have the work session, if it could become an informational section, and then, but it has to be put on the agenda, which is, I think, already been,
So we can put it on the agenda for
for the school board meeting.
school board meeting.
So I can put it on the agenda, Mr. DePiero, and I
Let's
can put it on
verify that
the
with Diana.
agenda. Even, because the agenda hasn't come out yet.
It hasn't come out yet.
no, but she's,
Plus, just
Getting
like
ready, I
just
think,
like the
next- yeah, but
policies
We're gonna
next
talk about
Thursday.
it on the phone and we
Next
can.
Thursday.
amend
And they
the
can
agenda
amend
at
it
that
when they
point.
talk on the
Right.
phone.
Well, and we started doing, if you can't do that, we started doing policies through a work session, which also counted as information because the whole board gets
yes.
the information.
So right now
So
you
you
have
could use it
4.
either way.
You have 4 for work session.
So I just,
And
when
3
you
notes.
amend your agenda, do you want it amended
You're
for
one of the notes,
information to the whole board, or do you want it for some kind of action?
Somebody's traveling.
I guess it would,
Well,
They need to know what's going on first.
Let
I
me put
guess.
it back on you guys for a question. Number one, the board is very practical,
I
right?
think so.
And we know that we need to get some stuff done, and the backlog of policies is important.
Thank you.
Did you hear your name in vain?
I didn't, I started burning.
Wow.
You on fire?
So I believe that if we were to put this on the agenda for the work session, that we could make it an action item for the meeting the same day. Could we not?
You could, would you want to? Because there's not a lot of time of it being public prior to a vote being taken on it.
What's the public concern
Yeah,
of this? I mean, it really is an internal working.
It is, and I agree with that 100%. Typically, as you know, what we do when anything is up for a vote, unless it is something that is time pressing, like RFPs or, not RFPs,
Yes.
bids, things like that, is presented to the board and publicly 1 month. It's out there publicly for the board and the public to review for 1 month, and then the board takes action on it. I agree 100%, this is internal processes. This is not anything that really affects the public. I agree with that 100%.
but
But 1 month and,
it is,
and all the ones we're already behind, it's not really gonna,
That's where the pressing
right.
oh yeah,
part is for me.
I feel like it's pressing.
I mean, with your question, Jill, I had policies ready months ago. 8 policies ready. We didn't move forward with it because we're like, why are we going to have you waste your time
Gotcha.
doing information and doing action on policies that may disappear if we follow suit with this? So we just stopped until we got direction.
We could have probably had at least 2 or 3 workshops, or work sessions to get her stuff moving. And because we've been on hold, we haven't done any of that.
Right.
I keep telling her every time we have a work session, keep those 8 ready, and we don't do it.
So am I hearing correctly? I'm just gonna get down to the
Brass
bottom
tacks.
line. So we would not, the committee would not want to reduce the policies to 70. So we would look at either another organization to provide policy services, or we would look at staying with SBMA and getting Sands Anderson or whatever legal team to review policy, and still keep our policies in the format that we have them. Either way, keep the policies in the format that we currently have them.
But we would only have school board members on SBMA, but they would not provide us any more policy stuff? Is that what you're saying?
We would not utilize their policy
Well,
services.
I think we would leave our policies the same, and
Right.
we would contract legal.
To do our policies, like they would no longer do
Well,
any of it.
here's my other question real quick. I know we voted against it in January. Could we still do a dual?
Yeah, I think so. Diana, is it correct that the cost is $350 per board member for,
SBMA.
That's what it was the last time. In this year is $350 per board member per year. That's what it was the last time. When your membership comes up for renewal is when we will know if they've increased that or not. I don't know. But yes, at the last,
And
SBMA's membership.
if we were to do a dual membership, or if that's up for consideration, I mean, we could do it for a year until. I mean, is it a long-term thing? Is it? Could we
No,
put?
it's
Can we say like we need to do this to get us? We have to for SBMA to even get up to running order.
I think what we need to know is what benefits is SBMA giving us right now, right? Because when we look at it from this perspective, it's all negatives, right? It's extra work, an inferior product, a revamping of the system, countless man hours of work to try and get up to speed. Who knows how much expense that would entail, plus having to do our own legal.
Now, I won't say that their drafts or policies are inferior, but they're not, we can't use them without legal counsel.
We can't use them without legal counsel, and we can't really, it's not like an overlay to what we're doing, it's a redo of everything. Right? right? It's scrap the old and start over with new, and
They provide you all with news, you get it, news.
Well, VSBA did that. Like,
I get it.
I'm just
I
saying,
get
what are the
SBM.
positives?
yeah, you get a weekly thing that has everything in Virginia and national news with links to different news articles.
And that's
The
not
same thing happened
different,
with
but
From a
it's
VSBA.
something they're
conservative,
giving us.
from a
And they make
conservative
their
perspective,
they make
so, and that's
newsletters.
good.
They make newsletters that have some beneficial stuff in it. Like I learned some stuff for FOIA, and they have different things in there. VSBA also did that, but it was different. Like they would just give me each year, here's the whole FOIA law, and here's all that's changed in it. They don't do that there, but they'll tell you what has changed. You got to do stuff with it yourself.
So they both have benefits.
Yeah,
Well, they're both supposed to be helping a school division. I mean, I'm not saying that their policy stuff is not.
Policy
Fitting
should
with
just
us.
be policy regardless of where they stand. And I'm very black and white when it comes to policy. And I know you all don't know me that well yet, but it's black or white to me, on what should be done and how to do it. I feel like that benefits everybody. I'm coming from the corporate world. You can't have a well-oiled machine unless everybody knows what they're doing and how they're going to get it done.
and I know that was their claim. I mean, that was what they were doing, because I did like a Google search, and it's, SBMA is prioritize parent rights, local autonomy, focused on board members' legal authority. That's what they're kind of known for.
Traditional values.
And they do a good job with that besides the policies. Like the stuff I get does do what
Right,
you're saying.
but because the other organization's been here so much longer, it's so much,
Well, they provide more training and more things you
Deeper.
can go to, and it's.
like, it
it's
was
not just
hard
for
for
school
him
board.
coming in as a new superintendent. He felt like he missed out on so much stuff that he just didn't know.
I would go to Region 5 meetings and not know what they were talking about because they all just came back from a VSBA conference, or they were getting weekly VSBA, legislative policy updates, and I
Right.
wasn't.
Right.
And there was a time where there was a superintendent below us who was sending it to me, because I had this conversation with him. And I said, gosh, I feel lost, I'm, because I'm not a member. And so he started helping me, and if it wouldn't have been for him, I wouldn't have had anything.
Yeah,
I don't even
they
know if that's
send
legal.
lots of stuff like that, drafts for discipline letters.
Yeah.
And
All
I
kinds
try
of stuff.
I
for
try to
FOIA.
do that with the stuff because I don't pay, but it's $25, and I'm on the thing where I get the emails and stuff from them. So I've been like, if I get it, because most of it doesn't have anything to do with my job, and I'll be like, well, who might need this? And I will forward it on to a staff member to be like, is this beneficial to you? But they don't get it. They don't get it themselves.
So you guys have been doing this for a long time. What do you see as a viable solution that is efficient, economical, and in keeping with the philosophy of the board, which I believe is more traditional?
I would say start by going to the VSBA webpage. There is a letter from the executive director who addresses, at least I hope it's still there, addresses
I
the,
have it.
the misinformation and just the issues that got them into the situation several years ago of interpreting policy. I got the same feedback when I got here for VAS. And I can tell you, after working with VAS and just reading the letter from the SBA, they take policy and give it to you, not with their slant, but they give it to you the way the legislator might have slanted it, if that makes sense. So if you have a left legislator who's pushed something through, which we're probably gonna have more of now, they're gonna show you what the law says, not what they want it to say. And that's the same thing that VAS does. I just completed, with their help, a narrative for VAS's legislative lobbying in Richmond for the upcoming sessions. There's nothing in there that it goes left or right. It's student safety, it's student performance, it's teacher pay, it's administrative pay, it's all kinds of stuff like that. There is no slant. So I would urge you to look at the VSBA, and there is I assume it's still there, a letter from their executive director saying, hey, listen, we got a lot of beef and this is what we do and this is what we don't do. And so that'll give you some interpretation of where you were several years ago. As far as moving forward, I don't disagree with what SBMA does, but what it needs to be doing, if it's gonna compete, is it needs to have services for superintendent, it needs to have something for the board clerk, it needs to have something that the executives, for instance, like for Dr. Woodford, curriculum and instruction, she could go and sit in on things for VSBA that would have legislative effects on curriculum and instruction and get that. She could go sit in on an HR and
We
get
used
that.
to all go to
And-
the conference together.
Yeah, so
We
that
all went together
doesn't
to the.
exist for us now. And I made that request to Shelley Norton months ago. And, and I told Chris I was gonna do that, and I told several other people I was gonna do that. Because I think if they're gonna compete, that's where they need to be. And that's a tough climb to get there fast. But if you wanna have an association, you need the input of the superintendents who have to actually make it work. And the executives who have to make it work, and the board clerk who has to make it work with the board. So that doesn't exist. So why I asked for dual membership is not because I wanted to take SBMA away from anybody. I don't mind the conservative slant that they give, but I wanted to be able to gain the things that we've now lost. And so that was why I asked. And at the point of where we were when I asked, it wasn't all of these new changes that were coming down the pike, which to me even convolutes it more. And for we need to go back to something that gives us all the service, and so we don't pay legal twice.
Well, anyone can spend stuff any way they want, no matter who we go with. But what we need for policies, I mean, I'm only doing the policy part, so that's the part I'm concerned with. I'm not saying VSBA, we need somebody who gives us what the law says, puts it in our policies, gives us draft language, sends it to me, and we can do the same process we've always been doing and making sure that we're abiding by the law. If it has a spin on it, that's why we have the work sessions. That's why we had IGA meetings. That's why I put links to every law that associates to a policy at the bottom. Click on it, see what the law actually says. You do not have to take the language that comes from the policy services people. You just have to do what the law says. We dictate what the policy language is. They just give us a draft. That's what we want. That's what I want.
That's what I want.
No matter who's doing it, that's what we want.
And I think regardless of who you went with, I'm pretty excited the fact that there's a conservative board and a conservative group of executives that's not going to just have a blind eye to some
Take hook, line, and sinker, what comes down the pike. Yeah.
legislation. We're gonna do what the law allows us to do to enact it. Otherwise, we'd have a revolt in our own county.
Mhm.
And so, I think we have to trust each other, and because of what we believe, that we're gonna do the right things for the kids at the end of the day.
And I think we have a strong policy manual now.
And I question any policy services that we've gotten in the past. When I give a draft to an exec team member and I say, I need you to review this and tell me if this draft is good by this certain time, if there's something weird in it, I will say, this is what the law says. So they're aware, like, this to me doesn't, I mean, I try to do that as much as I can.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, I've sat in on enough of the policy sessions that I know that all to be true.
And most of the policy is not something that really could have a slant anyway. Do we give sick days? Do we not give sick days? Do we?
Yeah. It's
Do we
just,
discipline
it's a
for each
select
reason or we
few
don't?
that could
But
be.
we don't. Yeah, 99% of it's not even.
What's amazing to me right now is I'm getting bombarded by companies who wanna enact the cell phone policy. And I just keep telling them, hey, we did that a year and a half ago. You know, they're trying to sell me products, they're trying to, we're done.
Well, that's because it came out in effect by July 1st that
Right,
SBA
but-
gave us.
but
We had already done that.
The governor had suggested you do it, and we did it, and Now there's literally companies out there just feasting on people that haven't done it until July. So some counties are obviously doing it right now for the first time. No.
If we're gonna discuss it in this detail though, Melissa's done an excellent job with her research.
I won't be able to do the same thing I just said again.
No,
Have a good
because it
memory
took too
these
long,
days.
but
I mean, I have the summary that I made for myself, which is way shorter.
Well,
I
they're
mean, I
gonna,
can make
I
something
think
like
the
that.
board's gonna get the document, if they haven't already gotten it. This document used here today.
It's already
Everybody- it's
publicly,
posted.
so it's,
And
yeah,
I'm saying if you wanna talk about it in a work session, they can have that to look at themselves, and
I
we
guess
don't
the-
go over every bit of it, I just give the summarized version.
The question is, if you didn't have the work session, because you don't have all the people with you, and could it be an information point to where he makes a presentation on this work session?
if Dr. Huback is willing to do that, yes,
Or bring it up in his comments,
that would work also.
and then it go to the next month, but that, again, is the urgency of.
Well, and also keep in mind too, another thing that was passed July 1, if something is not, if an action item is not on the agenda at the start of the meeting, per this new law, it cannot be added at that
on
meeting.
that
It
meeting.
has to wait until the next meeting. So any action item has to already be on the agenda at the start of the meeting. When the meeting is called to order, if an action item is not on there, we can no longer do the suspend the rules, I wanna make a motion to add,
Well, I'm
make Leanne
assuming-
always wear dresses
I'm
to
assuming
work
that's
as an
full-
action item.
Full
Right, sorry.
transparency, so people are aware
Yes,
of what's
yes,
going on
yeah.
before they get in the meeting.
So I guess my question
But
is,
if it's on as an action item, we don't have to act on it.
It could be
Right? We can
tabled.
choose not to act on it and postpone it to the next meeting.
It could
if-
be tabled. Mhm.
Yes.
I guess the question is, do we need to do the work session in your mind?
I do,
Okay.
and for the purpose of getting everybody
discussion.
on the same page,
Okay.
up to speed, so that
I agree.
in the regular meeting, we can take action, and because it's not really a public issue, if the board is all apprised of what the problem is and what needs to happen. And I guess my only remaining question is, we've talked about the difference between costs, but what would the cost be of maintaining our SBMA membership and doing VSBA as it has been done in the past with their policy support?
if you did both, you'd pay for both those fees. You would forego having to pay for the attorney fees that you would have to go out. So, yeah, there would be the added cost of that, but offset by if we only relied on the SBMA, we'd have to go pay for attorney fees anyway. And I cannot determine the difference in cost between that because it's too hard to.
We're really only talking about $350 per
In
board
addition
member,
to
is
what
that
we
right?
pay for
Per person,
VSBA.
plus what we're not spending on SBMA policy services and legal team to review those policies.
right.
It would be the,
Now, VSBA is more than,
But that's because they're
so
already.
you're going up a higher level and you're paying for the board members, so you're going up at least 6,000. Would be my guess.
hard,
Then you shouldn't have to go to legal counsel for policies anymore.
Right, which would save you 3, but I'm saying, and we're going off of old prices.
Mm-hmm.
It used to cost
yeah, the two things.
23,750 or 24. It used to cost 24, and it'd be another 24.50 for SBMA. Now, she says diligent
Cost more.
used to be discounted to 10 too, but now the base price of diligent is like 17.
It's 17.
And we don't know what the discount is.
We don't know, yeah, when we've done the switch,
Those are gonna be the questions that the board, all the
I'll
board
have that
members
ready.
are gonna have.
The hard part to answer is what is, if you don't pay for the policy service from SBMA, and what would our anticipated legal costs be for our attorneys to review it compared to doing VSBA, which would include the policies? The policies would come with the membership. And then the offset of that is there is a discounted rate for diligent. It used to be about $2,000 or $3,000.
I think it used to be 3. It
About
was-
$3,000 when it was 13,000 compared to 10. Now it's 17, probably about the same, $3,000 or $4,000 discount. I'll put something together on that.
Yeah,
But
just a
it
single
is-
sideshow to see.
It is a guess on how much our attorneys would charge us for how many policies we took to them and how much time that would take.
There is, VSBA does provide some other little savings, like you get your event passes for free from VHSL. It's like they're all tied in together. You get liability shield, 50,000 offset. Is that per board member, or I don't know what I don't know how that
I'm
works, but
not-
I know there's a liability shield that they give you, that their attorneys will, I guess, assist with. So they're, because they're all the whatever, you know what I mean, there's some little hidden things in there.
Little perks.
So, Dr. Hubbard, are you wanting, I want to make sure I understand, are you wanting to have the work session for this at 3:00?
Yes.
And you're wanting an item on the agenda at 5:00 meeting as well?
Yes.
What type of, an action item?
An action item.
Okay, so the agenda will go live that Friday before, I think that's the
Next.
4th? Is that right? The Friday before?
Well, we have our phone
We
conversation
have a
next
phone
week.
conversation on the 3rd.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get it on there. And then we can, if you want to talk about, if you want to talk, since technically the chair determines the
I'll talk to
agenda.
Chris.
Yeah, if you want to talk to Chris, and then we can continue that during our agenda, prep discussion.
And I just need to know if somebody else is talking in the work session, or if I need to do that, or if I need to come up with something. Leanne, don't point at me.
I think you're a neutral party
I try to be.
that they believe in the opinion of policy.
But we're not gonna go over all of that stuff again.
No,
No,
a
I'll just
very
come up with a
short,
better
condensed, 2-minute version.
2 minutes, oh my, no.
10 minutes.
Yeah, good luck with that.
How much time do you need?
It's a lot of information.
How much time do you think?
but all
I'll
of it,
have to, make me a summary and see.
I think you have to understand too, that the rest of the board is pretty familiar with where we've been and where we're going. And what they're not aware of is the current state of confusion and
Right.
tardiness in policy review and those kinds of things. And that becomes a pressing issue. And that's why it should be an action item. I think that the path forward is pretty clear, unless SBMA is, can get their act together in short order and present something that is a little bit more palatable. They're just not gonna make it.
Well, you give
That's
me a
what I think.
timeline and I'll come up with how much I can stay in that amount of time. Whatever.
Well, you've got 4 people committed right now, so that's 4 people opinion. You'll be here, you have an opinion, and the other 3 that will be here.
Do we know who's not gonna be here? Jill,
Stephen Hill has a commitment, work commitment, and
Chris will not.
Chris is traveling back from, I believe, New York or New
But
Jersey.
he'll be here for the board
He'll be
meeting.
here for the board meeting, but
Yeah,
he
I'll
thinks
be
he thinks he wouldn't be back in time for the work session.
okay.
So, Dr. Hubach, sorry,
Hmm?
yeah, sorry if it feels like I'm harping on it. What is your intention for the action item? What is the action item? I need to know what to call it. What is the board going to be voting on? Is it just to not use SBMA policy services? Is it
Dual membership.
dual membership?
It's going to be for dual membership for the purpose of reenacting VSBA and their policy procedures, their policy review.
Cause they used to make you had to be a member to use their policy
Yes,
services.
yeah, they
It was
won't
an
let you
add-on.
use policy services if you're not, don't
Right.
have membership yet.
Have we already committed to SBMA for their policy services for the year?
They're
They
not
have
charging us
charged
right now.
Until they're finished with their process, so no, we haven't paid them.
So we're kind of in limbo.
They're in limbo and we're in limbo by default.
We're trying to move forward.
I mean, they're trying to do right by, we're not gonna take your money when we're not giving you a
Right,
product that is
right.
finished.
Which is
And that's-
respectable.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
It is.
but we also see that there's not a sustainability to that, to what service they're trying to offer. So, does that,
Yes, that answered
Answer
my
your
question,
question.
thank you.
all right, anything else? Motion to adjourn?